Fuck yes. Brand new at the gates. Not wasting any fucking time today, because I fucking love this band. Let's fucking go! No bullshit, ladies and gentlemen. I love At the Gates with all my fucking heart. In my opinion, they were responsible for some of the most innovative and revolutionary death metal of the 1990s and quite possibly of all time. Their 1995 magnum opus, Slaughter of the Soul, in particular, is as close to as perfect as a death metal record can possibly get. It truly is a lightning in a bottle kind of moment for At the Gates, capturing their best performances, their best songwriting, their best production ever, period, end of fucking discussion. And while I recognize that some people are somewhat indifferent to the band's more modern output, cough cough Metal Trenches looking right at you, good sir, I, for one, have been a fan of nearly everything they've put out. Not just studio albums like At War with Reality and To Drink from the Night Itself, but the multitude of EPs and singles that they've put out these last couple of years. Not to mention, they still fucking bring it live. I saw them open for Amon Amarth and Arch Enemy just a few years ago, and they were easily the best of the goddamn bunch. With all this in mind, it should not be a surprise whatsoever that I was absolutely elated when I heard late last year that At the Gates was beginning work on their 7th studio album, now known to us as The Nightmare of Being, nor should it be a surprise that this was one of my most anticipated albums of 2021 altogether. An anticipation that only continued to grow and swell with the release of promotional singles like The Paradox and Spectre of Extinction, both of which delivered upon whatever expectations I have for anything that dares to have the At the Gates name on it. But, as it turns out, The Nightmare of Being is a much different experience than the promo singles may have led many people, including myself, to believe. While this is still very much at the core and At the Gates record, displaying the same delicious and salivating stew of melodic death metal that has made the band so iconic and so powerful even to this day, it's also significantly darker than previous records. It's more introspective, it's more intelligent, more dramatic, more evocative. There are string quartets and orchestral arrangements and keyboards and choirs and even saxophone parts scattered across the entire album. There are some very dark and grim spoken word segments, and the lyrics across the entire album, not just in these particular segments, pull from classic literature, from Gothic poetry. A press release from At the Gates even cites influence from the works of Thomas Ligotti and Eugene Thacker, the latter of whom also appears himself on the track Cosmic Pessimism. In that exact same press release, the band even goes as far as to cite musical influence from the likes of John Coltrane and Philip Glass and King Crimson. And there's a real fog of darkness and evil that this album wears proudly like some kind of cloak. It's a genuinely pretty evil and mysterious affair. Take, for instance, the genuinely dramatic Fall Into Time, a 6-minute cut that is emboldened by these really powerful string segments, some chunky, kind of blackened, mid-paced melodic death metal, some really fierce and agonizing vocals from Thomas Limberg. It's all genuinely really gripping and effective, and yet I feel comfortable saying that the most fascinating thing about this track is how it almost out of nowhere detours into a wild kind of atmospheric prog rock jam session right around the 4-minute mark. It honest to God feels as if Baroness or Elder have suddenly hijacked the song itself, and yet it doesn't feel out of place. There's no stark, glaring contrast. If anything, it feels weirdly natural once you begin to spend some time with this segment. I especially love how this track brings back some heavier elements from earlier into the song to close it out, giving this a genuinely pretty thrilling climax. You've also got a track like The Garden of Cyrus, where the band's prog rock influence, namely from King Crimson, becomes surprisingly very transparent and obvious. It's a genuinely very intimate and unpredictable number, starting off on some very quiet and moody guitar work, later evolving into something a little bit more chaotic, building up some tension, introducing some more guitar stuff, some more percussion, some more string work, eventually bringing in some very erotic and sensual saxophone. Like, I don't want to make this weird, but I'm not exaggerating. There's something genuinely kind of hot about how the saxophone is utilized here. Then you've got the closing number, Eternal Winter of Reason, which, true to its name, is a very chilling number. There are some doomy sprawls, there are some blackened spices mixed in with the band's usually sharp melodic death metal. And of course, the aforementioned Cosmic Pessimism as well is a literal whirlwind of, well, cosmic pessimism. It's cold, it's brutal, it's thought-provoking, and musically even appears to borrow a little bit of influence from like 1980s goth rock. Even the usual death metal anthems that define At the Gates are a little spicier than normal. The aforementioned Spectre of Extinction in particular has pretty blatant black metal influence right on its sleeve, and even sports a pretty thrashy breakdown right near the end. And the track Touched by the White Hands of Salvation even appears to have a little bit of an epic flair to it, almost akin to that of Amon Amarth, namely in some of those pulverizing riffs and guitar harmonies. I can practically hear swords clashing in this number. Look, folks, I'll be the first to admit, I'm probably biased as fuck. I mean, I've made it abundantly clear by now that I love At the Gates and that I probably would have loved this album even if it was a literal clone of their previous studio album. This is one of the few bands that, in my opinion, could make the same album over and over again, and I'd be perfectly fine with that. But At the Gates clearly aren't, so they didn't do that. They went ahead and they made one of the biggest and boldest and most progressive and intelligent albums of their career. Very much on par in some respects with Slaughter of the Soul. I do think that some of the more blatantly progressive twists and turns found across the album will require a little bit more time and patience than one would normally afford for an At the Gates banger. That aside, I feel remarkably comfortable giving this a 4.5 out of 5. And why is that? Because it is a truly incredible record. That's fucking why. This right now is what At the Gates needs, and to a certain extent what melodic death metal needs. A real kick in the ass. Something different, something bold, something spicy, something mysterious, something smarter than your average melodic death metal record. It repositions At the Gates as the true kings not only of melodic death metal, not only of Swedish death metal, but perhaps of classic death metal as a whole. I mean, really think about it, folks. While bands like Morbid Angel and 6 Feet Under and In Flames grow more and more irrelevant with every single release, with every single day that passes by at this point, here comes At the Gates with inarguably their most ambitious and creative project since Slaughter of the Soul. It's so good that even casual fans and cynics like Pair of Jeans and Metal Trenches respectively have admitted to me that this is a damn good record. The hype is real. Whew. Let's wrap this up. It's like 1,000 fucking degrees in here. And not just because of that saxophone part. Oh god, I am horny for At the Gates. Ugh. 4.5 out of 5, an incredible fucking record. Holy shit. Please check this out. Definitely check this out. Long live At the fucking Gates. Holy shit. Wow. I love it. It rules. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be. So what do you think? Do you like this record? Do you not like this record? And what do you want to hear from me next? And as always, thank you for watching. Make sure you press this button right here so you can subscribe if you haven't already, so you can get updates on the Metal Meltdown fucking immediately. And as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day. That doesn't help. It's still so fucking hot. I'm turning on like every fucking fan. We're done here. Go home.